No, I'm not all that much into eating out. I actually prefer to eat at home. Find that I can make stuff as good or better than most places that I go to. And I think one of the last few places I went to was a chicken wings place, and I thought it was a fast food place. I got there, it was kind of a dimly lit barroom atmosphere, and I ordered some chicken wings that I was in the mood for. The waitress brought them. She was nice. The chicken wings were okay, and then all of a sudden I kind of look up and I see this guy. The bathroom was in view, and I see this guy stumble out of the bathroom and into the kitchen, and he was obviously the cook. And I thought, wow, okay, well, I hope he washed his hands, but you never know. And the cook was, guy was obviously the cook, but he was obviously also drunk, so you just kind of sometimes wonder about what's happened to the food before you eat it. So I've been getting better and better at cooking at home, so good in fact that friends have commented on I should open a restaurant or something. And so I actually thought about it. Not that much into cooking, but I thought how nice it would be to wander around through the restaurant and greet all the customers and introduce myself as the owner and all that egotistical stuff. So sounds fun, but how realistic, I would never know. So I thought, well, maybe it'd be good to talk to somebody who has a restaurant and see what's involved in having your own restaurant. In the neighborhood that I've lived in for many years happens to have a little restaurant row, a number of restaurants along the street, and I've been in most of them at one time or another in the past. But I decided to go into one of the better ones, and I had actually talked to the owner before, so I thought I'd go in and talk to him and kind of get an insight into what it's like to own and run a restaurant. So I sauntered into the restaurant question that I liked more than the others, and saw the owner milling about, talking to people and apparently having a good time. And I thought, well, his restaurant business couldn't be all that bad. His very gorgeous wife was just in the process of leaving, and I noticed how beautiful she was, and I thought, well, certainly didn't hurt his love life at all having a restaurant. So I said to him, wanted to talk to you for a few minutes if you got a minute. And he said, "I'll come back in about a half hour and we can talk." So I come back in a half hour, and he grabbed a little table off to the side. He kind of looked around and he looked at me and he says, "What would you like to know?" And I says, "Well, how is it having your own restaurant? You've had this place for 10 or 20 years now, and it seems to have you've done pretty well by it." And I says, "I'm just kind of curious as to what it's like to be the owner of such a nice place." And so he looks around the room again, looks back at me, and he says, "You really want to know?" And I says, "Yeah, I really would like to know." So he proceeds to tell me about his adventures in the restaurant business. So he stands up and motions for me to get up. He steps over towards the door to the kitchen, and swinging doors going into a kitchen, so it's easy for people to come in and out. And he motions with his head towards the inside of the kitchen. I see half a dozen cooks in there, all doing stuff and everything. And then he motions back to the table. We go back and sit down at the table, and he says, looks looks exciting, doesn't it? And I says, well, yeah, it really looks exciting. You got a lot of cooks in there, and a lot of talent. And he says, yeah. He says, yeah. I'll say talent. He says they rob you blind. He says every one of them has got their own restaurant going on the side, and they steal the food, and the portions here keep getting smaller and smaller, and you gotta worry about them and your wife, and they just seem to be biggest bunch of thieves you could ever possibly run into. So my mouth dropped open, and I said, really? That's quite surprising. He says, oh yeah, you wouldn't believe it. They all have a little hole-in-the-wall place, little startup going, and they steal the food from here, and I keep wondering where all the food goes. Well, it's not hard to find out. Just he said he'd went over and kind of checked out all their little hole-in-the-wall places. He just eyeballed it across the street, just a few tables in the places, but nothing fancy. But it was a start, and described about how he was paying for all of it, and said he'd like to get rid of them, but they're the best cooks in town, and of course he's financing all their places, half a dozen or so little startups that supposedly he doesn't know about. They don't know that he knows, but he knows, and so he knows what's going on, and it's kind of depressing for him, really. Meanwhile, the food portions at his place keep getting smaller and smaller, and the quality isn't getting any better, and they're kind of like making out like bandits, taking the food, running out the door with it, and taking it over to their own place. And so I said to him, well, what about your concerns about your wife? I said, so I motioned toward the kitchen door, and I said, so which one of them is making time with your wife? And he says, you mean doing my wife, don't you? And I said, yeah, which one of them is getting it on with your wife? And he just looked towards the kitchen, looked back at me, and he says, all of them. And he says, not one at a time either.